So this one is a very interesting excerpt to ask for. It's the beginning of the prelude of Act 1 from Tristan and Isolde. Right, so it ended up being a bit of a tough assignment because I would normally tell a student to listen to a recording to get an idea of the piece, but this is one of those things where, conductors start conducting it very slowly, and then every conductor wants to show how slowly they can stretch this music out. And that isn't wrong. It's a valid, it doesn't, maybe it's, I listened to about 7 or 10 different recordings, and I think recordings have started going a little bit overboard with how slow it is. But, so it's nice to occasionally have somebody who actually has a little bit more flowing tempo. And for the sake of an audition, you would not want to hear, first of all, this is being asked for high school students, and you need a certain level of musical maturity to be able to stretch a tempo out and sustain the interest. Otherwise it sounds dull and plodding. So I always tell students, when you have a slow piece, don't play it quite as slow as the real tempo, because you don't have a whole cello section to play with you, but also be sure that you're able to sustain the musical line. So I would say the important thing there is to sustain the musical line. And these are just some bowing changes, some bowings that I've made up. And particularly for the student, one thing I'll explain in advance is that I'm changing bows in different places at the beginning. The reason is I don't want to change bow on the second downbeat, because that gives it too much emphasis, and the swell up is from pianissimo, I think, just to piano, not so much. And then the cellos have 3 phrases, the woodwinds follow us, of course, each time as well. So each phrase should get a little more intensity and everything. So. And I'm not going to hold the entire rest either. I don't recommend. This is too long for an audition to do that. Actually have the next 5 measures of rest, including fermatas written out. Don't wait that long, of course. I do want to say I maybe didn't quite do the sforzando on the last G sharp, the last note. And I also couldn't resist stretching into that. If I were actually auditioning on this, I suppose I would check with a metronome, and then I would allow myself some freedom, not to play like a metronome. But if you stretch too much, then your rhythm becomes indeterminate, and that's not generally what people are looking for. So play as many notes of the chord as you can sound good. Then this has to be flowing, because this is a very long, you have to be able to keep this like 8-bar, 2 8-bar phrases going. So I want to say a couple of things here, because I did notice with students, controlling the bow is, if you're a more advanced student, if you're in college, or of course if you're on an audition, you're a professional, you would have a different understanding of bow control. But this could be the first time a student is exposed to this kind of difficulty in bow control. So, and these are not, if I were actually playing this in the orchestra, I would do a lot more slides, but I wouldn't do that for an audition. So since I've never played this on audition, it's very strange. I have to think about it that way. So that one, I didn't even do the right fingering for the student, but you're still basically forte when you start that. Now you have the same 3 beats, but it's got this piano, and then you need to get back to the frog for the bowing I chose. So very light bow. I mean, you really have to save here because there's a crescendo, then a little diminuendo. But there's no good place to change bow in that measure, really. So I think just do it in 1, and it's, you know, it's piano to mezzo piano or something. Again, and I'm down bow there on a kind of big crescendo, but there's actually that E has to really sustain and go towards the C sharp, so I prefer to be up bow there and C sharp here. And actually these are motions you should practice to gain confidence in the, that's a huge leap, and it should not be like that. It's got to be, he writes, the composer writes a slur over the entire thing, so it's got to have a sense of connection. It's a very vocal line. I can't remember my bowings, but as you go down the piano, basically. Also, the music moves a bit here. I'm talking through a bit and like not really retard, then back to tempo. Not too much crescendo because I want all this in one bow. This repeated A, so the first A is tied over rhythmically, and then the A that comes on the 5th eighth note of the measure has to be separately pronounced, so be sure that that can be heard. And there are some, the bowings I'm doing actually require quite a bit of bow control, which is, in a way, I'm pushing the student to see if they can manage it, and, you know, if not, then we can adjust bowings. But I think even in Philly Orchestra we might take extra bows there, but yeah, we haven't done this piece in a while. We recorded it in like 25 years ago. And we've played it maybe once or twice since then at the most. And then you fade out because the woodwinds take over, and it's very elastic and connected music. Let me see if there's anything else. Yeah, I'll do it once a little bit more how I would play it in Philly Orchestra. So with a section, so I'm only one of, you know, 10 or 12 playing. So we're not all sliding the same places necessarily, because then it can be too much. But